And we're live. Hi, everyone.
Good evening.
Right, tonight we're going to be doing an interesting look at the papers, a bit like what the papers say on TV. And we'll be looking at some of the monthly magazines, and we'll be doing some more later on too, because I've ordered a few more magazines that we can peruse and talk about. And these will be our sort of setting off point, as it were, our starting point. For your questions, because your questions ultimately, whatever topic you like, are going to be interesting. Hi, Agility Bits. Aha,
Agility Bits.
You're a regular for us. I know that a few of you have been coming very regularly lately.
Hello,
Celia.
Hello, Celia.
Hiya, thanks for joining us. William Sermon. I don't think we've seen your name
He's
before.
From
Botswana. Oh, wow. Cool. We get people from all over, don't we? Hi, Millie. From Bali Vedic Astrology. Guys, you'll remember Millie came to us another time and we had an interview with her. And that's always fun. And anybody wants to do interviews with us, get in touch.
May York.
May York, yeah. Tell us where you come from, guys. It's always interesting to see where you're joining us from, because we seem to be from everywhere. Brittany, wow. And from the Ohio.
Oh, Laurie. Heidi.
Hi, Heidi.
Heidi, hi.
And Jane Oxley, you joined us quite quick. There's lots of you on time tonight. Hi, Jane. Hi, Raisin.
Super.
Yeah, so we got people from Facebook as well as from YouTube, because you can join us both on YouTube and Facebook if you come to our page. And if you're not on Facebook, come to our YouTube. But if you're on YouTube, come to join our Facebook, and then you'll catch it both times. Hi from California. So it's nice. Well, we seem to catch everybody, and we even get India, don't we? So it seems we get the whole trek right the way across from India to Africa and Europe and all of America.
Hi, Tanya.
Some of you just getting up, and some of you just going to bed.
Meditation Chamber.
Meditation Chamber. That's an interesting name to call yourself. Yes. I was going to call myself Smoke a Lot.
India.
Yeah, from India again. Hi, yeah. So that's nice to see you guys. Sheila.
She's British.
From British. So the only ones that really miss out on these are actually mainly the people in Australia, isn't it? And Japan and places. But we'll have to do some on a different time of day sometimes too. But it's good we timed it right. I think we get a good group of people. It. Nicolado Avocado.
I've heard about this.
You just had lunch, I hope. I've been telling Jane about you. You've got to go watch his channel. His channel is fantastic.
Mr. Creosote, is it?
Yeah, Mr. Creosote. Yeah, I don't know if you've seen Mr. Creosote. He explodes. There's a great one for you to try on your channel. Actually, guys, that's a guy worth going and have a look at, actually. Very spiritual person as well, but also got a hilarious channel, which is real funny. You made it. Yeah, I know you tried last time. And technical support. I mean, there's another good name to call yourself. Yes, that's a very good name. Right. So we're going to start off tonight by, or morning, whichever where you are, by looking at some of the papers. The first one we're going to put up is going to be from the Fortean Times. Okay. Now they're done an interesting front cover, and this magazine was looking at the idea. I looked at the lead article, and now I didn't get much chance to look at the full thing because we only just managed to get a download version of it. But the Mandela effect, if you remember, Domenico and myself did a whole program about the Mandela effect. So I don't know if you guys have come across this. When did Nelson Mandela die? You know? Do you remember? Any ideas?
Was it 2012?
Well, you're right. It was 2013, pretty close. But a lot of people thought that Nelson Mandela died in the 1980s in prison. And it was quite common. It wasn't just like one person thought this. Thousands of people thought this. And like the Monopoly Man. Now, does the Monopoly Man have a monocle or not? You know? Think about it. Does he have a monocle?
Yes.
He doesn't. But most people think he's got a monocle. And there's this sort of thing where there's all these strange anomalies.
He has now, if I say he's got one.
Reality might change.
He has.
That's the whole concept in that article, actually. Because the Mandela effect, because you can start getting lots of these. When Play It Again, Sam, that's one that nobody's come up with before, as far as I say. He never said Play It Again, Sam. in
Casablanca.
wasn't it, with Bogart, you know. Yeah, so you get all these strange things where we all think it was like this. Looney Tunes, is it spelled T-O-O-N-E-S or T-U-N-E-S? Most people think it's Looney Tunes, but it was never spelt like that. So there's all these strange things, and why is it that we get this? Now, some of the psychologists say it's like a false memory syndrome, which could kind of explain it. But others say that maybe it's something to do with time slips. Maybe there's some strange
suggestion, do you think?
Or lots of psychological reasons. But a lot of people think, could it be this idea of the multiverse, that we're moving from one place to another? And in certain multiverses, the Monopoly man has a monocle, and in certain he doesn't. But we whole of humanity does shifts between these, and we remember things that actually did happen when they didn't. And that's the basis of that article. So I actually thought that was a brilliant article that we're going to do for Tea and Times a few more times. So what magazine you've been reading today, Jane?
Well, I've been reading Chats, It's Fate.
Okay. Now, this is a British one.
Yes.
And actually, if anybody's got any American ones you can suggest, let us know, because we haven't got any American ones at the moment. But this is a British magazine. It's a typical sort of woman's magazine. So what's the article you found?
The one here is photobombed by a spook. It's like when people take photographs and actually there's an apparition or an entity that suddenly appears behind them, and they catch it on camera, which is quite interesting, because sometimes people go along taking photos of graves.
Photobombed by spirits.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's been a lot of cases like that, even right back in the times when they used to take pictures of everybody sort of lined up in the army and things like that. Well, people would appear.
The famous one's the brown lady.
Oh, and that's in the article too, isn't it?
Instead of the grey lady, the brown lady.
Yeah, the strange
that's a famous
apparition on the staircases. I'll see if I can give you a shot of that. You'll need to get you in focus. That one. You remember that picture on over here? That's quite a over here. That's quite a famous sort of picture. So that was quite a weird sort of story. Yeah. So what do you think about those? They make sense, these stories?
Well, I think it is possible to catch apparitions and that, but you've got to make sure, same like with orbs, there's not dust on the lens and everything. But it has been known that people have taken photographs, say at weddings and funerals, and a relative suddenly appeared that's passed over on that photograph. And I feel all things are possible. So
you've got any photographs, you're welcome to send them in. We might be able to do a thing on here on ghost photos again. You remember I used to write for Faith and Fortune magazine. I haven't got a copy of this month's Faith and Fortune, unfortunately, although they do still send me a regular copy. I used to have a regular column in there talking about ghosts and things. Well, I'll come back to that one in a minute. Let's have a look at one of these other mags. Another one that's popular, another one I write for quite a bit in the past, is Spirit and Destiny, right? And I think Domenico's going to pop that one up for us. Quite an interesting magazine. This is a monthly mag. It's a good seller. It's always very nice people there, actually, the editors and things, with all these magazines usually, because I've written to many of them. Very nice people. But some of the stories, I think some of these are quite interesting. They might be interesting for some of the stepping off points for some of your questions later, if you want us to ask them. It's about Prince Harry and Meghan, one of my favourite topics. Because apparently the Duke of Sussex and Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, broke away from the royal family earlier this year. It came to no surprise to astrologer Debbie Frank, who worked closely with Princess Diana after meeting her in 1989. And she's saying in her column here, basically in the comments quoted about her here, is that astrology suggests that they work better as a power couple rather than attempting to fit into the royal structure. And she was saying this apparently before they cleared off to some obscure place around the world in America.
What star signs are they? It'd be interesting to know.
I've forgotten offhand. Didn't Harry and I think he's I can't remember. I think he's a Leo, isn't he? One of them's a Leo. I've forgotten now.
Leos definitely go after what they want, don't they?
Yes.
Definitely, they're not worried what other people think.
You've got to be careful, because I'm not sure they are. Yeah, she's a Leo star sign. You're right. Yeah, yeah. She's Leo. I can't remember what Harry is. It doesn't say here.
Yeah, well, it's no surprise in Leos, because Leos definitely know what they want and they go after what they want.
Yeah.
And very strong beliefs.
Yeah, Leos can be difficult customers sometimes, actually, because they're very self-centered.
They bite your head
they
off.
want it all, Leos. Oh, this is the negative side. Sorry if some of you are Leos, but the negative side of Leos is they want the lion's share all the time. And I think Meghan, personally, was trouble all round, personally. And you remember we made some predictions on this channel in which we predicted that Meghan would be leaving the country. And all before it broke in the press. So you get next week's news here today.
Yeah.
So where are you going? You're going to go back to the other one?
Well, I'm going back to Chat magazine. Now, this one really made me laugh, because this woman says she clears ghosts and everything. And she was, she was invited to a party, and she said a spooky, saucy ghost grabbed her boobs. Well, I've never had such luck like that, Craig, personally.
No. I mean, they could grab my boobs nowadays too, the way I'm getting putting weight on.
How stupid is that? And she sat there, I can't believe this, because the spirit world that we know is not like that. And I think really that gives it a bad press, really, saying things like that.
I think some of these, I mean,
crazy.
I mean, you can't blame the editors of these magazines, because they've got to fill the magazine
and
they want headlines, don't they? But I mean, some of the stories you get, I mean, even on the front cover it said something.
Yeah, but look,
pop, didn't it?
She had a large hand print on my boob.
You check.
That's why I got a scarf on, really.
The lipstick's from a ghost, darling.
God. Isn't that dreadful?
It just gets dafter and dafter. Even the front cover, I seem to remember, it has a story about was that the one, Unicorns in My Garden?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got 3 at the bottom of mine.
Mean, this is one step above what's it? National Enquirer, isn't it? That's the one in America that gets engraved. I'll have to subscribe to that one too for you. Yeah, so there's quite a few interesting stuff. I mean, the next one I'm going to have a quick look at is the Psychic News. Now, I haven't got the current edition. Well, I lost this current edition, but there's some. I find Psychic News. So I'm looking at the earlier edition on April, actually. So I'm a bit out here, but because I couldn't find the other ones today. But a good magazine, I think, for more intelligent articles. Then they get a bit boring, some of them, because they're a little bit overwritten, I think. But generally, much more thought-provoking, and of course I write for this sometimes as well, and that makes it worth subscribing to. But there was a good one in here actually, about a medium called Estelle Roberts. Do you remember Estelle Roberts?
Yes.
Did we ever meet her? Was she that before our time? There was another one that's similar name.
No,
it wasn't her, was it?
No,
she goes back a bit further.
Robert. She'd been around in the wartime and that. You wouldn't have met her.
Yeah, we know. So going back, was it someone? I always confused her with someone else.
Arlene Roberts.
Yeah, it might have been. But anyway, she was one of these fantastic mediums that would do trance and things like this. And she had amazing accuracy. I mean, some of the old mediums, and because, you know, the Psychic News has all the archives. I mean, I went through the archives at Psychic News when I was doing some research for a book, and they have all the archives right the way back to the first edition of Psychic News. So I don't know how long they've been doing it. It must be established 1932, right? So that's a lot of weekly publications. It's now monthly, and so they got a whole reference to all this. But one of this whole story that was that Eileen Roberts and other mediums, and it talks about a number of different people here. It's had this thing called exeoglossy, in which they speak a complete foreign language, but foreign languages that they've never heard.
Is that like speaking in tongues? That's very gospel, that is.
Well, that's a nonsense language, in my opinion. But anybody can do that, and I've seen people channel space people. I mentioned it before, where they speak like this from Mars. You know, what am I doing sitting here listening to this?
Well, you're just as daft.
But you know, some of the stuff.
Actually, the old mediums are very good, because they were very dedicated, and they were very strict, because going back in those days, it was sort of not in the media as such, because it used to be quite in private.
People would never want to make a lot of fuss, or the good ones didn't want. They were kind of quite how can I say, reclusive sort of people, some of these mediums.
Well,
They weren't looking for the limelight. I mean, one of the stories here, it says, surely the most incredible instance of exenioglossy was spoken through the direct voice medium. So a direct voice is not just trance, but the voice is heard in the room separately by George Valentine, 1874 to 1947. So they go back a long time, this psychic news. But it was in archaic Chinese from the time of Confucius. Certainly, so these things are often had people sat with them who can speak those sort of languages and can confirm those type of things. I mean, sometimes, we've had amazing things happen with us. I remember in one sitting talking to someone in Urdu, and I can't speak Urdu. I can't, and I just said a couple of sentences in Urdu. I could not know more than that. So that was my.
I suppose Urdu was Urdu indoors.
Yeah.
Urdu indoors. The tea. Urdu.
Indoors. Yeah. So and they also got a very interesting stuff in here again about Harry Edwards. I don't know if some of you've ever heard of Harry Edwards, but there's an article here by Billy Roberts. Was Billy Roberts the boyfriend of Peter Close?
No,
that was some.
No, there's the. I know who you're thinking Billy, of. No, Billy Roberts. Straight.
Is he? What was the one? I always muddle them up, don't I? Sometimes I muddle names.
His name is Roberts.
He also writes in here.
Yeah, but he went to America.
That's
that
it.
one.
Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent here. But again, a really quite a good article by Billy Roberts here, another medium, and about all the sort of things in healing and Harry Edwards and things like this. And when you start reading some of these articles, they're much more enlightening because they're much more informed than some of the more popular magazines, can we say. So a good one by Billy Roberts, and another medium who I really like. They're starting to put in psychic news now, some work by Stephen O'Brien, who's good. Another medium we think is fantastic. I noticed he uses a photograph of himself when he was about 35.
Oh, he's so nice, still lovely. Yeah.
You must look different to that now, Stephen. I have to start putting photos of me up.
He looks a bit like Freddie Mercury in that one.
Yeah, well, he was a good-looking guy in his time, wasn't he? So, but Stephen's wise words, they call it, and I found that in the psychic news really, really interesting. So I think we've probably done enough on the magazines now, because there's a few other articles there. I was quite interested in. There was a good article on the Ouija board in Spirit and Destiny, but it would take too long to tell that story. And also about the planets at the moment, apparently, according to one astrologer, are absolutely perfect for anybody wanting to develop their paranormal powers, because between July 19th and August the 8th, we have Jupiter aligns significantly with Neptune, and apparently Neptune and Jupiter in alignment is supposed to be very good for anybody wanting to develop their psychic powers. But it doesn't go into enough detail.
Brings good fortune, Jupiter.
Jupiter does, and Neptune, of course, is the planet of intuition as well, like Uranus is as well. But you don't like me talking about Uranus, do you?
I think it's you.
I've got asteroids in conjunction with Uranus in my sign, apparently. Okay. So that's some of the stuff in the news, and I thought that would be an interesting way to get you inspired. Have you got your questions? Because if you've got some questions, we can talk about the various topics. Now, we can't do it personally.
And have you ever taken photographs and you caught on camera that's clear an image that you think is a ghost or an entity?
Yeah, but you'd have to send them to us. You can send it through my website at psychics.co.uk. If you contact me through the contact form, then I can respond to you by email, and you can send us your pictures. So, yeah, we can do some of those again later. We've got a whole bunch of them, actually.
And remember patrons.
Yeah, I'll do all that later. So, guys, what's your questions? Have we got any interesting questions that you'd like us to? Not personal stuff really, but any topics that have intrigued you that you'd like to know about. I remember Nicolado Avocado, a question you asked through the patrons on the website. I noticed you sent a question there saying, asking, when so many people reincarnate, and how did you put it? It was, there's more people in the world today. how come all these people can reincarnate into the world, and there's more people all the time? Are there more souls being made? I think the implication is, or are there?
Well, the universe is vast, isn't it?
So could have all those people, all the people living
they don't
today,
always come back.
Yeah, but if all the people today had a past life, we'd have already filled up the whole of human history, right the way back to the beginning of time, because there's more people alive today than pretty much the whole of human history on the planet at any one time. Right. So everybody couldn't have had past lives, could they?
That's what I just said.
Yeah.
That's what I've said.
Where does it come from?
That's what I said. The universe is vast.
So it comes from other planets.
Well, we believe that there is a life form on Mars.
So you do. Yeah.
Well, I'm much more.
You're back with that guy. No, you're back with that guy that was doing all the channeling.
No. That's no.
Maybe
Sharavana, Barbara. Because I believe there are other life forms, but it doesn't mean to say it's negative life forms.
Actually, Sharavana said that life originated on Mars. Now, I can go along with that idea. I don't know if there's life there now, not life in the normal sense, but maybe it did start in Mars and it seeded it on Earth billions and billions of years ago. It's quite practical idea, actually. Actually, it is quite an interesting idea.
How do we know those souls haven't gone on to another planet?
Yeah, because we do tend to think that Earth is the only place. It's like,
the spirit world might be on another planet.
It's like you think your own town's your own village is the only place that exists, but there's a whole world.
That's all you're used to.
And so, don't forget your questions, guys, because we need a few more questions up. But
what's this one?
In your years of mediumship, are there good and bad spirits?
There's no such thing as bad spirits. I think sometimes people might imagine there are. It might be through them taking drugs, or it might be through them drinking, or it's fear, isn't it? And fear becomes very real.
Yeah, I think with evil spirits, it's a huge question.
Are the only evil spirits are living ones?
Firstly, when you think about how people think, right? Now, we are nowadays, modern people think quite rationally. But I think when we first evolved our sense of consciousness and self-awareness, I think thoughts appeared out of nowhere to us. We were, in a way, the way our self was structured, this is how I think about it, the way that our sense of I was structured is that we weren't fully control of our thoughts. So, and you'll find it when you study the psychology of people in quite primitive societies, they see thoughts from outside of themselves. If anything's gone wrong, it's a bad curse being put on me, or if someone says ill about me, it comes as it's like they thought differently. And I think evil spirits are sometimes our own psychological inner processes that we haven't integrated into ourselves, as it were. It's from the unconscious mind.
It's from previous history, like Catholic churches. It's good for business.
Well, and there's also that. Yeah, it's good for business to have it's always good for business to have an enemy, isn't it? If you've got an enemy, the establishment or the Conservatives or the Labour or the Republicans or whatever your enemy is, it's great to have someone to fight against. Politics runs on that. But also, I think that this idea that we do kind of fear ourselves, there's things in ourselves that we fear, things in our unconscious mind. You think about it in a dream, how sometimes in a dream it will have things like evil spirits and things, because that's the unintegrated parts of ourself. That's where I'm going back to the idea of the original way people thought. I'll get a bit too deep for this after all those magazines. But do they exist outside as well? Is there such a thing as evil?
Oh, dark forces.
But is there evil? You see,
there is evil going on while people are doing their actions on the earth plane.
But is there a force of evil?
Maybe.
Because people think in terms of a devil and things like that. And I think, well, I don't believe in a man in the sky god. So why should I believe a man with horns and a tail evil? That both of those are silly concepts in my mind. It's a typical way we like to anthropomorphize things as well. We turn it into something, don't we? So but have we experienced evil spirits? We've experienced things where there's like distressed spirits, and we've had those poltergeist things were those things
a lot of psychokinesis that's happened around us.
Yeah, that's what I mean. When poltergeists and things thrown around, whether that came from the energy of the mediums or whether that came from elsewhere, and what one might think of evil as another might think of just a spirit in distress. So evil is in all of us. It's the resistance to the light. I think
Debbie, she's absolutely right. I think there is dark energy people create, and I believe that's true. Because if people got evil thoughts, it's creating. Thoughts are really strong things. If you think good things like to help somebody with healing, then you create that. If you're thinking evil things, and it's like, I'm not saying hexes or that, but it's creating it.
Yeah, I agree absolutely 100%. And actually, it will hex a person, I think. I think if you think ill of somebody, it brings bad upon them. So think nice things about me, guys.
And me, and me, not just him. It's not all about him, you know.
Yeah. So no, but it's kind of like, you know, our thoughts are things. They go out from ourselves, and perhaps that's what people see as
agility bits. What are your views on the Ouija board?
And that's always good. I always like to take questions from dogs because. Do you want to start off on that?
No,
Jane?
you start it. You've got enough to say.
Yeah, all right. Well, from my experience of YouTube, I've mentioned this before in other talks, actually. But on the one hand, I think anything like that is a tool. Mm. I mean, mediumship does not require anything. It doesn't require. It doesn't. You know, I see mediums on Facebook and things holding up tarot cards for spirit communication. That don't work. You don't use that. Even psychometry, you don't do that. So a Ouija board's a tool. So mediumship don't require that at all. So when people get together and they all put their fingers on a Ouija board, what I think you're doing most of the time, and maybe not all the time,
putting your energy.
You're putting your energy. Like we were talking about thought forms there. You're perhaps creating something with your collective unconscious connections.
And it comes an illusion.
And I think you can fool yourself with it, because what the board is doing is acting as a mirror to all of you, and in particular reflecting some of your fears. Now, that doesn't mean to say that Ouija boards can't also communicate with the spirit world, because there's been, particularly like, for example, there was an experiment done called the cross correspondence, in which a message was given from the spirit world to come through a number of sources at the same time to give proof of life after death. You want to look up the cross correspondence. It's too long a story to explain here. But in that case, the Ouija board did give some, one of the channels for it was the Ouija board, and it did give remarkable evidence. And so it's not saying it doesn't work. It does work. But I don't think it's using the right level of energy. It's using that energy of the lower mind, and that lower mind is influenced by fear and worries and things like that.
Do you remember that film Blithe Spirits?
Oh yeah,
Madame Al-Qaeda.
Yeah.
Is anybody there? And that was brilliant, wasn't it?
Yeah, Blithe Spirits worth a look too. It's probably up on there on YouTube somewhere. Yeah. But yes, with Ouija boards, I personally think it's, if you want to communicate with the spirit world, sit in a circle. Find mediums that you're prepared to sit with and learn to develop it yourself, or sit with mediums who are advanced, or sit with groups of mediums, and you can get all sorts of communication.
You must have a very good controller.
But I don't think the Ouija board is a safe and useful form, because it so often goes badly wrong for people, and I have so many cases of people that freaked out with the Ouija board and just frankly ended up scaring themselves silly. And I did it as a kid. I mean, I used the Ouija board over the graveyard with my friends, as you do, and got in a lot of trouble.
So that's what happened to you in your childhood, and you've never been the same.
Yeah, we did. We used to do that. And it got a lot of results, but I'm not so sure they were helpful. The meditation chamber. Have you ever contacted a celebrity on the other side?
We have had celebrities that contacted us rather than us contacting them.
Yeah, they say you can't contact a spirit, but a spirit can come through you.
We've had Princess Diana, and that's been filmed.
Yeah, the Princess Diana one, if you don't know our work, go and have a look at the Spirit of Diana. There is on the front page of this YouTube channel, and there's some bridged copies of it.
And I believe they're selling it in Harrods as well. But we actually travelled with the royal correspondent and Princess Diana's secretary, and we actually went to Paris, we went to New York, and Dodie's flat, so we can confirm everything we said.
But I think it's very important, because there's so many mediums out there on YouTube today who are saying, I'm going to channel Kurt Cobain or something like that, right? But there's nobody in the room who knew Kurt Cobain or anywhere near it. So there's no way we can tell that they're not just sit there channeling a load of nonsense.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
You've got to have evidence.
And there's tons and tons and tons of that on YouTube. And you guys, you should just ignore that trash, because those people are just talking for hits on their YouTube channel, right?
Well, do you remember one medium? I won't give you his name, but he said, "Tonight, folks, we've got Elvis coming through. Tomorrow it's John Lennon."
Yeah,
and then Stevie won, didn't he?
Yeah, I know. I loved his work. It was hilarious.
What did John Lennon say? He said, "Peace, man."
And he had
Peace,
Churchill
man.
come through, and he'd have Wall to Water, Freddie Mercury. It was fantastic. I think he had a few that were still alive as well. And the thing is, he believed it thoroughly. This is the problem, that sometimes the mediums completely believe it. But no, if a celebrity of some sort comes through, of course it's possible. But you need someone in the room with you who is a close friend of that celebrity or family. There has to be that love link. And when you say something, you can't just say stuff you can read off Wikipedia. You have to give something that nobody else knew. Right, so like with the Princess Diana thing, Jane and I gave information that nobody could do. So for the girl in front of me, I remember saying, "See, Princess Diana tells me that you would carry in your pocket a packet of pear drops, and those pear drops you used to buy them specially because Diana was coming to visit you." So there was a proof. You could never look something like that up because it was a personal proof. And Jane, you did the same with those people from the HIV clinic, didn't you?
Yeah, and also she told me what was buried in the coffin with her.
Yeah, and there's lots of stuff also off camera that wasn't used as well. But you know,
but it doesn't matter about celebrities. We're all as one, does it? It's only a title, isn't it? Celebrities aren't film stars, are they?
No, but it does get hits, you see, and that's why people love to pretend to be the medium's got all that information. So be discerning. Don't just take it all fish up and floater. Okay, do you want to read it, shall I?
You read it.
You give me all the hard work to do, Jane, don't you? So what's your thoughts on the pendulum? I'm not a medium, but sometimes I use the pendulum to check to see if people's chakras are open or closed. I do energy healing. Well, a couple of things there, isn't there? So do you think about the pendulum? Do you got any comments about that?
Well, I suppose it's a useful tool to do that, but we're taught how to open up the chakras and how to close the chakras, about the kundalini and the energy fields and that, but it's not to say that it doesn't work with a pendulum.
You see, the pendulum does pick up our thoughts, you see. Now, so a pendulum has two things. Obviously, we want the pendulum to pick up information that's not in our mind, that's paranormal. But the pendulum, from what I've seen when we work with the pendulum, it sometimes picks up the person's own thoughts, and that's a danger. A bit like the Ouija board, same sort of idea. It's picking up the thoughts on the lower level, so it can be deceptive. So I used to do a thing with my spiritual group when we used to meet, and we're going to put one online here soon in time, where what we used to do is I used to bury something somewhere and give them a map. And then we divide the map up into squares, and we douse each square, okay, until they could find the location of the missing object. And time after time, they get it right against the odds, you know. So that proved to me, they did the same test on me too. So that proved to me that we were getting it right, that the pendulum was proof, because we could prove that we could find the object on the map. Right.
And what I do if I've done police work is put the map, the opposite, without looking at the details on it, use the pendulum, and I find that it draws very strong energy. Then it will drop down, and I put a cross on it, and we have actually located a missing boy's shoe that was drowned at sea with his foot in and everything. So it does work.
Yeah, but that's stuff we did with the police. So that did work. As for open chakras, if your chakras were closed, completely closed, we'd all be dead, because the chakras are the force of our life force. They do kind of, I don't like the idea of, I use the same phrase, open and close as well, but really we should be thinking of energized or non-energized, really, I think, when we talk about chakras. So pendulum dowsing on the chakras, I think I would be more inclined to use my hands to sense that, because you'd sense it through your aura then.
Yeah.
And So a thing like a pendulum used in those circumstances, I think, is only a tool. And I think I would be less inclined to trust the pendulum and more inclined to trust my
it's
intuition
like
and sense that I
dowsing.
get through the aura.
You could take your wedding ring off and you could tie it with some cotton and you can douse with that and it works. Because years ago, my grandmother, she used to tell people if they're having a boy or a girl, she used to put a wedding ring on cotton that used to swing round and she'd say, "You're having a girl, my dear." And it was always right, or "You're having a boy."
Yeah. That was an old
wives.
technique. I used to hold a pendulum. It's quite easy to use a pendulum, actually. You just you find your yes answer and you find your no answer. So your yes answer might be swing side to side. The no answer might be round and round. Or it might vary from person to person.
Right, let's swing some questions over to us.
So move on to a new one.
Who's this? Melanie C.
So Natalie says, have you worked with telekinesis? Have you ever tried to teleportation or spoken with someone who has? That's moving something from one place to another.
Russians are very good with that because there was a famous Russian woman that could do that.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking about people that have...
Madame Blavatsky.
I know Vi Kipling said she had a number of things in her circle where they had things teleport into the seance room. Now, I never saw that happen, but I certainly, she was such a sincere person, I believe it to be true, and unless someone in the circle cheated and dropped something in.
I think I would have called that an apport myself.
That would have been an apport, which was a form of... An apport is a telekinesis, really, isn't it?
An apport, that's the right name for it.
Yeah. So that's a telekinesis, isn't it? Movement from one place, from place to another.
And suddenly a materialisation of an apport.
So
telekinesis will make it move.
Sai Baba did a lot of things with telekinesis, with apports and things like that. When someone asked him for a piece of the real cross, he actually materialised a small piece of wood, didn't he, for the man? So there's all sorts of remarkable things. What have I seen with my own eyes? No, I can't say I've seen a genuine apport or telekinesis.
Some of these known mediums, known names, they go down and they scribble on a blackboard and they turn it the other way.
We've seen fake stuff.
And they're throwing like these artificial diamonds.
We've caught people, and I'm always prepared to call people out because, I mean, mediums should call out mediums if someone's caught cheating, because when someone cheats, it destroys all the good work that decent mediums do. So we have to fight hard to prove things, and then along comes some twit on television usually that's prepared to cheat left, right and centre and ends up destroying it for absolutely everybody. You think, oh, no wonder the skeptics have a field day with them. I'd be on the side of the skeptics. You can't do that sort of thing. So yeah, we've seen like that person write the magic of writing that appeared on the blackboard, isn't it? And then you spotted them writing it on there and then claiming later that it come from spirit. And they had a big following, physical mediums, alleged. Yeah, so there's a lot of rubbish out there, isn't there? Don't you agree with that?
Well, there is. What's this? Avocado. I fancy an avocado.
This is the I fancy an avocado. You should try his lovely recipes. If you feel hungry, fantastic stuff. Yeah, you'd have to have avocado with cheese on it, though.
Right, yeah, you
paprika.
Read it,
Okay. This was the question I was struggling with earlier. Sorry. Will the world's population continue to grow exponentially? I've seen other psychics say we'll be creating hubs to live in space because we destroy our environment in a few thousand years.
Well, I always led to believe that the Earth is going to go back to the Ice Age.
Or do you think we're going to expand as people into space?
Well, eventually man will get to space.
I think we will. I think because it seems to me, you see, the materialist view of things is that the goal of humanity is all material, isn't it? But the goal of humanity might be nothing to do with advances in science. I think the goal of humanity is advances in consciousness.
Yes.
And I think when we do get to the advances in super high consciousness, it goes beyond anything that any science fiction person can conceive of. Because I think when we reach divine consciousness, we may be able to, coming back to that telekinesis thing, we may be able to materialize and dematerialize at will. Things like that, miraculous human potential, which I don't think we've even got close to.
I expect in the future, our dreams, we can reflect from our consciousness on the wall.
Yeah, we can project ourselves. Now, when you see people, when we've seen these holy men in India who can appear at two places at the same time, or to dematerialize in one place and reappear in another, when you start thinking there's that sort of thing really possible, but then it's possible for all of us. So whether we get into a state where we're all sort of floating around the Earth in capsules and we're populating Mars, and
I don't think I'd want to float in a capsule.
well, you don't know. You could have all sorts of things possible. I mean, the possibilities are endless about what is possible in the universe. But I think it's going to be even more amazing than that, because I think the potential we have as human beings, we haven't even scratched our potential of what we're capable of. You know, I think we've got I think consciousness. You see, I think consciousness is more powerful than matter itself. You know, look at the case that with our consciousness, we can see through time and see the future and see the past. Look at the fact that we can communicate with the spirit world. These are minuscule things, tiny, tiny little things. But you imagine, and when you read, because you know I'm into India and all that, but when you read the stuff about India and you meet these holy men that have these incredible powers, what else are we capable of? So maybe as a species, we're going to evolve beyond the material. Even to the point where maybe the higher species can live in places that would be impossible for humans to live at the moment, like maybe live inside the sun. Why not? There's plenty of habitats. But if our evolution could take us beyond what we can see.
Well,
so
we'll probably in the future be able to grow our limbs and that through DNA.
Also, well, we'll be able to use science. Science will take us into wondrous places. But I think consciousness is going to take us further still. And how far ahead in human history that has to be. That might be billions of years. Well,
because animals pick up thoughts, don't they?
Yeah. Yeah, they do. Animals evolve too. But evolution doesn't evolve slowly.
No.
Evolution does in great, huge leaps. It jumps. So maybe at the moment we're going through a jump. You know, we're all capable of different things intellectually than we've ever been used to. You know, you couldn't have put even the cleverest man in the Victorian times on a computer and get him to do things. He'd never be able to take in the whole concept of it, or 3D reality or something. You know,
Wells was
yeah. I mean, people like H.G. Wells had huge vision, but they would never be able to conceive of what we've got today. And I don't think we can conceive of what's possible in the future. We get hints. But I think it's amazing things are ahead.
Spring what, Craig?
I can't pronounce that. So your name is Spring.
Right.
Sorry,
Mr.
Did I get that right? Sorry.
Well, call Mr. Spring. Mr. Spring. Will everyone find peace?
Will everyone find peace within themselves again?
I think eventually they will, because I feel what's been happening around the world, and we've been on lockdown and we've had to stay in. It's what we find the important things that really matter in our lives, don't we?
Yeah, ultimately.
People we care about, and people who seem to be much kinder to each other, doing shopping, looking after. Very important, boy. And people going around caring about others. I think that was important.
Yeah, I think on the first level, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think people, you know, when I see all this stuff going on with all these riots and things like that, I think back to the times of Ban the Bomb and Aldermaston. Every time we all got fed up, everybody wanted to go on a bomb.
I went on that Aldermaston
Ban the Bomb marches.
Michael Foot.
Yeah, with Michael Foot and all those crazy. And around the world, everybody had something to get out there, and it was great fun and letting off steam and energy. And I think what's happened is because of all the pent-up energy, this lack of peace, all this pent-up energy out there, it's like people have got to let it off steam. And I notice with all the riots, all very young people, because they're all frustrated at being indoors, so they all get out. And I think whatever the cause, however just, you know, because obviously these things are very important things, and it's good that we're thinking about all this, but however just, it could have been any other topic. We could have been out there protesting about environments. We could have had some political thing. We could have had the coronavirus itself. All that social unrest has come, as the Nadi said, because of the coronavirus, because of the virus lockdown. It's like everybody's really frustrated, and we're going to get an awful lot more of social unrest and strikes, because that'll be the next thing. Union striking all over the world because wages are going to go down. All that's ahead.
I had that in the 70s, didn't
so
they?
Peace on one level, because I think people have come together a lot more, and thought a lot more.
I think you find your own inner peace. So if you free the mind, you don't worry about anything, and you have to be strong in this life and have none attachment to things.
So I think it's made people think.
Yeah.
It's made the thoughtful people think. It's made a lot of other people more difficult and aggressive, I think. We've had a polarization of natures of people. But I think all these things are necessary because, I mean, I don't think we've seen anything yet. I think we're going to see an awful lot more world crises in our lifetime, which will help us ultimately come to a realization of the true peace in ourselves.
Patrice P. Does distant healing work? Is it possible? It works if you do a visualization. We can't promise to cure everybody, but I find it good to do distant healing around 10 o'clock at night, write that person's name in a book and visualize whatever's wrong with them and send out positive thoughts and energy.
But actually visualize whatever's right with them, actually, Joan, because you think of what's wrong with them, but you always see them as fit and healthy, just to explain that. You never visualize the person ill, you visualize them well, right? And it's like we were talking before, wasn't it, about thoughts of things. They go out from ourselves. And, you know, God knows what thoughts have been going out through this coronavirus.
On you without cough now.
Yeah. But
positive thoughts.
Positive thoughts. When you think positively about people,
I mean,
it does
Matthew
heal.
Manning was a very good healer. He used to do a visualization.
He's still alive. He's a good healer.
And everybody that had cancer used to visualize like soldiers attacking the cells and that, and clearing all out the dead wood and everything.
Yeah, it's very much part of spiritualism, because we were very much part of spiritualism for many years, and they always have absent healing parts of the procedures. But I always found that when you're sat up on the platform because you're going to do mediumship, and then all the audience are sending out healing thoughts, you can feel the energy in that congregation rise, and it's a genuine thing. It's not something, and particularly when you're right up there on the platform about to do your mediumship, you can just feel the whole energy lift. And that's just a small group of people usually. I mean, spiritualist churches, you're lucky to get 50 people in them.
Any more questions?
So it does have a real power. Yes, use it. Valerie says, did you have any specific food cravings whilst developing as a medium?
I don't think I ever did. I think, like Craig, you drink lots of water and that's a clear mind, but some mediums do tend to put weight on when they're doing mediumship. I've noticed that.
I think mediumship does affect your sugar levels.
Oh yeah, through diabetes.
Because there's a sort of a fallacy, really, that mediums are more likely to be diabetics. But I think that's because a lot of mediums I've seen are pretty overweight. That might have been why they were diabetic. Most mediums don't have a particularly good diet or anything.
Well, I mean, before
smoke a lot, some of them.
I don't smoke or drink, but before a medium does mediumship, I personally don't eat before my mediumship. I wait till after I've finished my mediumship, because it makes you very tired and drowsy. And in a spiritualist church, after you finish the service and you've communicated to the audience, then they give you sandwiches and a cup of tea to build your energy up, which is most important.
Yeah, so it is true actually, and I can't eat before doing mediumship either. I have to. So if I'm doing mediumship all day, it's very difficult to eat. You end up going long periods without food, which is not good because your sugar levels are also dropping. You have to drink a lot of water as a medium. You have to watch your sugar levels. I mean, I knew a medium who used to say just before he stepped on platform, he would always take one of those, what they call them, the tablets of sugar, glucose tablet, so that he's got all this energy and his mediumship could come through easier. But I think that's a bit dangerous to use the body like that and the body sugars. So it definitely affects the sugar. And I think the most important thing with it is to be careful of spiritualist cakes. Because they force them down you, don't
Vera, Jane, do you need a photo of the person you tried to heal on distance? I think sometimes it's quite useful because, you can put your hand on that photograph. Say if somebody had stomach trouble or anything like that, and you had a photograph, you put your hand on there. It does help. Or photos of children and different things. But as a healer, you can never promise cures, of course. All you can try and is eliminate someone's pain.
Yeah, and also it's not necessary. You can do it just with the name. Often in spiritualist church, they have a healing book, and they read the names out while the healing's going on, and that in itself is enough.
Even animals, they do it for.
And certainly when it comes to mediumship, you definitely don't need to have the photograph. In fact, I think the photograph is a big distraction, and I think mediums using photographs to
Cold
link
readings
needs to be banned, because that is a cheap method of mediumship,
No,
frankly. Well, it can be. They're not all cheating, but some do.
It's best if you go to a medium, you don't tell them a thing. Let that medium should be able to give you, not necessarily always names, how that person passed, what condition they had, what you've been doing in the family, and also evidence. You must look for evidence, because it has been known that some mediums have read off a photograph and somebody's tried to trick them, and the evidence they've got is all wrong.
Yeah, because if you give someone a photograph and you've got facts on the back of it and things like that, well, that's just, what's the point of doing the reading? I mean, because frankly, you can read a lot in just a face, can't you? You can read a lot in a face. And so if you've got a picture of the person that you're trying to communicate, you can read me like a book. But if you've got a photograph of somebody, I mean, you can give a character reading, fine. But and then fill it with a few sort of generalities like, oh, he loves you from spirit and things, and you've got a cold reading. So I think that should be banned,
and
the use of faces,
I always think
photographs.
mediums, I always think if there's a genuine need for a loved one to come through, then they will come through that medium. And a medium will know when it's right, the same as that person will know when it's right to communicate.
There's an awful lot of misconceptions out there about mediumship, and I hope Jane and I, with the work we do here, sometimes helps to clear up what you should be expecting from a medium, you know. And sometimes you expect too much from a medium. It's not always you get the names right and everything straight away. You get all sorts of sensations. But don't let mediums use photographs or Facebook. Don't give your Facebook details, or shut your Facebook down so it's not public.
Right, it's Elizabeth. Do you think that because some people don't love themselves, they cannot love others, especially people different from themselves? Well, it depends, doesn't it? I think we should love ourselves, not egotistically, but love ourselves and feel comfortable in ourselves. And I feel that, and love others.
Lovely I am. I'm just saying I'm lovely.
Yeah,
it's true. If you can't love yourself, you can't love another person.
You've got to love yourself. Love's all on different levels, isn't it?
And then what do you mean by that word love, of course? You know, because the Buddha talked about compassion, which is like a higher level of love in some respects as well, that you love everybody and everything. But we got to be, I think we get on better with people in the world if we're at ease with ourselves, don't we? And if you think about the troublemakers in our lives, all of our lives, they're always people that are mixed up in themselves. You know, It's usually they don't like themselves much. And therefore they take it out on everybody around you. And those one or two mixed up people like that can cause endless troubles and endless problems, because it's a very selfish, self-indulgent sort of thing.
It's jealousy.
And self-indulgence is a terribly dangerous thing, isn't it? So, and I suppose self-indulgence is a sort of a lack of love and a lack of confidence, and it destroys the very person, and it destroys everybody else in their circuit. So I think that's a good point.
Yeah, love yourself.
Love yourself. Yeah, definitely. Good.
Craig, he's a good example. He
loves
himself.
I love myself perfectly.
He loves himself 100%.
I'm a wonderful person. I like myself most because I have no ego whatsoever.
Right, I love animals. I love animals. Craig, what do you think will happen around the eclipse on the 21st?
I think a lot of fuss is made about eclipses and so forth. In fact, if you look at Vedic astrology, eclipses aren't seen as bad necessarily. I mean, people have always made fusses about eclipse because you think about it, when we were sort of before we had a so-called civilization, and you see the moon darken or the sun darken or the moon go red, you know, you're instinctively think, my God, that's the gods, because you look up thinking the gods are up here, don't you? The gods in the sky bring us thunder, they bring us light. You know, the first god was the sun, wasn't it? The first god we worship was the sun. So we look up and we see an eclipse and we think this is always going to be something terrible because it's a darkening of the light, isn't it? And I think a lot of that comes down to the fact that that goes right back to our ancient primordial selves, you know, the unconscious mind again. And I think we make too much fuss and worry too much about eclipses. And actually, if you did a study about this eclipse is going to do this and that, and you see all the astrologers, some of the astrologers fussing about that, and you actually check the events, actually normally it doesn't make a huge amount of difference. So my thought is, no, I'm not worried about no eclipses. In fact, I think they're beautiful things. And and in fact, I remember when I had Menardi's done the first time. I came out of I came out after the Nardi reading, and I was dark outside, and my brain was still fuzzy with it because it was such an incredible thing. And I looked up at the sky, and it was a dime of an eclipse, and the moon seemed to go a sort of greeny colour. And I remember thinking, how mysterious. And there's me connecting with all those thousands of years ago, you know, and they were doing that. And then at the very time I just had the reading, I see the moon so strange, and the clouds came across it. And I just thought, my God, this is just so bizarre, you know. So there's something magical about it, because I'm a great believer in astrology. And, you know, but I think the sort of astrology we've got in the West now has lost its way and become very, very shallow.
Yeah.
So we're going to have the last questions now, guys. And just before the questions come up, let me just remind you that if you're a patron of this site, you can get all sorts of extras, really, because you can join me with my live meditations and come on live. We also put small little clips, all the funny bits with me and Jane now. I'm tending to put them on the Patron site because I had one the other day that was a bit rude. That was the one with Ian and this dreadful sheep shagger picture. It's paintings. But I put them onto the Patron site usually. So you get lots of little extras there. But most importantly, it's helping us, not just with this channel, it's helping us with, we're doing some charitable work too, but it's also helping us with our bigger objective, which is to ultimately have a center of our own. First of all, it'll be a sort of a live center, so it'll be like this, where you can connect with us like this, and with other mediums and other people as well, and other interesting people, and also eventually its own place. That's what our objective. So it's charitable.
Let me see.
We don't take the money.
The full he looks like Marty Fellman, doesn't he? The full Monty. Yeah. He looks like Marty Fellman.
The sheep shagger,
you know, from Wet, Wet, Wet.
Did you see that one on there? I think you're a patron. I put it up, asked everybody what they thought, and said, should I put this on the live channel? And they said, I don't think so, Craig. No. Anyway, but it was still fun. You know, it's fun. It wasn't rude or horrible, but it was just... Claire Brady, have you heard of a silver cord attached to our spirits and bodies once we die? Is it cut?
No, it doesn't happen.
Well, what do you think?
I've actually seen a spirit leave a body, which was my stepfather, and I was privileged to be there. I didn't see a silver cord. I saw the top of his crown there. Suddenly I saw a light come out, and the whole length of his body was bathed in a green fluorescent light, and suddenly it floated up through the ceiling. Incredible.
Yeah, and there's also been some studies done about the silver cord idea, because people that have had spontaneous near-death experiences that know nothing about all this nonsense we all talk about and get interested in.
It's not nonsense.
But, you know, they've just come from a no-nonsense world, and they've had a near-death experience, and suddenly they've had all these revelations, and they've stepped outside their body and stepped into the spirit world. They never talk about a silver cord, you know. So it makes me wonder, because I've not seen it, it makes me wonder, is this just a fantasy that's been sort of attached to the idea of rebirth and things like that?
That's right. When they think babies, when they're attached to the umbilical cord.
So that's the thought. It's a sort of rebirth image.
Yeah.
And I think it's probably, I mean, I don't know the history of it when it first came. I've not seen anything about it in some of the older texts I've read. No. From, you know, if you read texts about the next world from, you know, like the any of them from the long time ago, it's not really
Victorians
there.
Never talked
no,
about
but it's kind of came in at a point, and I think it's one of these things like we're getting nowadays with so many things where people come up with an idea and it spreads like wildfire, and suddenly it's the default position. So I would probably say I don't think there's a silver cord. I'm prepared to accept there could be, but as far as I know, the evidence doesn't point to it.
No. Right, what's this? Oh, Mr. Avocado.
How fascinating. Thank you both. I always wondered if we were transient species, here for just a blink in time. But it seems you both envision us staying for thousands of years to come. Yeah,
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, I do. In
Let
fact,
me
I would
see
say further than this. I would say, I think
God, look at him, the full Monty.
I think humankind will
He
continue to the
smokes, he
end of the
drinks,
universe.
and he enjoys himself. Never felt better. Good for you, then.
You do the best world predictions by a mile. Thank you very much. That's
nice.
very kind of you. I do have to stick my neck out with it. I don't get it right all the time, but I get a pretty good percentage. Yeah. But like I was saying, I was just wanted to conclude there. I do feel that we're going to stick around for a long, long time, not just for a short period of time. I think we will develop into something where our consciousness continues beyond the end of the earth. Our consciousness. Hello, everyone. Thanks, Craig J, for sharing with us. Thank you, Noble.
Nice.
That's very kind of you. Hello there, Noel here from Maine. Thank you for your time and giving us the opportunity to ask questions. Thank you. It's nice that you all like what we're doing so much. I'm glad we're getting
There's the full Monty.
getting a lot of you following us regularly. And tell your friends, please. And you know, because it's nice to get this channel really moving. And if you tell everybody about what we're doing, you share this video, for example, on with your Facebook friends. If you put it out there and like it and comment, because that all helps it all go up the search engines, and tell everybody about it and share it, Twitter it, share it on Facebook. That gets the message out. And
I think what's most important from the foundation, that actually we've paid for a heart surgery for an Indian person.
Yeah, we had all
in
that.
India, and it does help, because it helps those that are less fortunate, because of course in India they don't have the money, and it helps that we can help somebody.
But our objective is not we don't make any money from the Patron site, but it's not all given away as food and things like that. The objective is a spiritual one ultimately. Thank you, Craig and Jane. Interesting live stream as always.
Nice.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Okay, a great show. So I suppose we better start saying goodbye now to you folks. And thanks for, if you've got any other magazines that you think we ought to try to track down, put some links in the comments, because I'd like to try to find a few more from around the world. I don't know the American ones, for example, or the Canadian ones, or the Indian ones.
Anyway, love from the heart.
And thank you all for joining us.
And here's full Monty.
And we'll see you soon. Okay.
Yeah,
bye for now.
Bye.
See you soon.